One of my old managers told me something that really stuck with me. They said there are two types of people in this world. There are poor people, and there are those who break the rules. And honestly, it's something that I ponder from time to time because, it's just, is that true? Is that simple? The only way to have money is to not follow the rules? And I think there's probably some degree of truth if you want to hit the upper levels of society. But I think that really following the rules can benefit you, and breaking the rules as a lower class person can really negatively affect you. One example that I'd give for that would be essentially a lot of people do not report their tips in the service industry. It's not a secret. Most people know that cash tips are unreported. Well, the problem with not reporting your income properly is that essentially, whenever you hit Social Security age, your Social Security checks will be based on your incorrectly reported income. For Social Security, they take the 35 highest earning years to calculate what your benefit will be. So if you said, hey, I've only made $9,000 for my whole life, well, it's not going to be a pretty check come Social Security time. Now, I think that, there's obviously the other side of that argument where people say, hey, I need this money now. Well, that's fair. But the problem is we are all outliving our retirements. We're all outliving what we forecasted we would live to. And, I think that this fire movement of people saying, hey, let's try to retire early, let's try to do this. I think the biggest problem that they're going to run into as science improves, especially as custom gene therapy starts becoming more and more popular, is we are going to outlive the money that we saved. And what will happen in a society where there's a whole bunch of old people with no money, and then there's a whole bunch of old people with all the money? I think that society will quickly turn into some chaos that I do not want to be a part of. That is why I think we really need to start setting money aside, report what you need to report to make sure your retirement um, is actually okay. And then also just understand the reality. If you're broke, you probably shouldn't retire in the US. You probably can't afford it. If you are making, $1,000, $2,000 on Social Security, and you try to live in the US and you don't own a house, you have no assets, you're going to struggle. Like you're going to have a very bad life where you're going to eat primarily peanut butter and jellies and bologna sandwiches and some ramen, and that's going to shorten your life even more. So you're going to not only have a probably not nice place to live, you're going to have pretty bad food, where if you decided to go overseas with your money, you'd be able to get a significantly upgrade in your quality of food. You'd get a significant upgrade in your standard of living. And beyond that, something I really like to think about is who benefits from the dollars that you spend. It's something that like a lot of people think, oh, it doesn't matter, but like it does. So if you think about who's actually benefiting from your dollars that you spend, If you go, for example, I'll always use my example of the Philippines. If you go to the Philippines and say you go and eat out at a restaurant, well, the minimum wage, it depends on the city or barangay, but the minimum wage is, we'll say, 500 pesos, which is roughly $10 a day. If you go out and spend $50, you are probably employing at least three people. And I think that's something that's like, even in the US, people should think about is we need to spend a degree of money to ensure the economy is prosperous. But if we spend all of our money on propping up big businesses, we cannot then be upset that all of the big businesses win. And at the same token, like, we can't buy organic food if we can't afford it, but we also can't just go and buy great value brand everything and expect for society to improve. Off the political high horse for a second. The main point that I'm trying to say is for Social Security, you really should try to keep a running total of the top 35 earning years. Do a quick calculation. There's a website that has the Social Security um, information. I can't remember it. I'll mention it in a future video. This is more of just a rambling rant as I drive to work. But I think that the reality is you can do things for manipulating the averages. And it's what the politicians do all the time. So if you get the top 35 earning years, any outlier drastically increases that total. So if you, for example, say you're still young, if you have one, we'll say 2 to 3 jobs at, I don't know, 3 years of your life, that's going to bump up your Social Security pretty significantly because it's based on the average of your top 35 earning years. Where if you had a few years that you maybe forgot to report your cash tips as a waitress, well, you should probably start really maximizing your earnings, or at least your paper earnings, for Social Security purposes. It's something that, like, yes, it sucks in the short term because you're going to probably have to pay taxes on your earnings if you report properly, but it is going to make it where when you retire, your life will be more prosperous, especially if you go to another country. Um, I made a post the other day about Sierra Leonean citizenship for African Americans. It's something that I'm looking into. The cost of living there is very cheap as well. Um, I think that, Freetown looks like somewhere that would be nice to live as long as you are more into natural foods. If you want frosted flakes and stuff that's not that great for you, it'd be very expensive to live there. However, if you want natural foods, I really think that the cost of living, even somewhere like Sierra Leone, would be very nice. Um, I think that you should really look into where you want to retire now, and then just build all of your retirement investments, your passport portfolio, and all of that in line with the place you want to retire in the future. And I think that it's something that not enough people do. They prioritize just working with not spending any mental effort or mental capital towards the idea of what's going to happen to me when I'm 70, what's going to happen to me when I'm 60. Because the reality is, if you are relatively healthy and not morbidly obese, or you don't have some type of chronic illness, you will more than likely live at least till 70 if you are a US citizen. And if you're really healthy, you might live longer. And it's something that you should plan for, because I see all the time people that are older that are working that look like they're struggling to do the work. And I've seen it enough in my life that I don't want to see it for people I care about. And I hope that you don't want to see it for people you care about. If you think someone needs to hear this video, please feel free to share it, um, like and subscribe, and also comment what type of topics you'd like me to go into on these rants that I do driving to and from work. Until next time, later.